They don't talk about it. But you feel it, especially late at night, when the world goes quiet and no one's around to distract you. Something inside you stirs, something subtle but heavy. Your phone's in your hand, your mind's racing, your body feels awake. But your soul feels like it's not even there. So you start chasing something. You scroll, you click, you imagine, you dive into fantasies. Not because you're some kind of deviant. Not even because you're overflowing with desire. But because something's missing. There's a hollow space you can't quite name, and you're trying to fill it. You tell yourself it's normal. Just stress. Just a little escape. Just biology. But deep down, you know that's not the whole truth. Because even while you're in the middle of chasing that feeling, it's like you're not really present. Your body's moving, your hands are busy, but your heart feels miles away. And when it's over, the silence comes back. That quiet ache settles right where it always does. And guilt shows up too, not the kind that comes from breaking rules, but the kind that comes from a sense of meaninglessness. Like you just did something that didn't really matter, and now you're right back where you started. You felt it before, not just after, but during. Even when it's intense, even when it's wild, when it feels thrilling on the surface, there's still this odd distance, like you're watching yourself from the outside. You tell yourself it's about pleasure. But what if it's not? What if it's never been about the physical side at all? What if what you're really chasing isn't desire, but a way out? A way to escape. From boredom. From loneliness. From shame. From the deafening silence that comes when you're left alone with yourself. The truth is, you don't just want her or him or whoever's on that screen. You want to be held. You want to be seen. You want someone to look at you and not expect you to perform. But instead, you chase images. You chase bodies. You chase these brief flashes of feeling alive that vanish the second they appear. And what's left? The same ache. The same silence. The same questions that no climax could ever answer. You're not chasing her. You're chasing something inside you that she reminds you of. Because the real hunger is not for touch. It's for truth. It's not about lust. It's about loss. The loss of connection. The loss of presence. The loss of your own self. And here's the hard part to admit. Lust isn't your enemy. It's a signal. A message. Your soul trying to reach you in the only language it still remembers. Because there's a wound inside you. One you didn't ask for. One you never deserved. But one you've been carrying for a long, long time. And if you're really honest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This isn't about shame. This video isn't here to scold you. It's here to reveal something. Something that Carl Jung understood better than most. He said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. So maybe lust, or what we think is lust, is really just that, avoidance. Not of morality, but of the unbearable weight of our unmet self. You see, you don't want her. You want safety. You want peace. You want to be known in a way that doesn't require you to be anything other than what you already are. But instead, you chase moments. You chase pixels. You chase a version of connection that never really satisfies. And then you're left wondering why you feel so numb afterward. Why something that was supposed to be so powerful feels so hollow. Why the rush fades so fast. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're bad. It's because that feeling was never rooted in something real. Because it's not about lust. Not really. It's about a deeper kind of hunger. One that lives in your chest, in the quiet moments when everything else fades. One that no screen, no fantasy, no quick fix can ever satisfy. And that's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. We've been told that lust is natural, that it's just part of being human, that it's desire and desire is life. But what if that's not true? What if what you're feeling isn't lust at all? What if it's hunger? Not physical hunger, but soul hunger. The kind that aches beneath your skin. The kind that can't be touched by anything on the outside. The kind that whispers, feed me something real. So let me tell you a story. There was a man. From the outside, he had it all together. Confident, ambitious, charismatic. Women loved him. He told himself he was just driven. That what he felt was natural. That he was just someone who loved the chase. But late at night, when the world went still, the truth came out. He'd be lying there, next to someone who once excited him, and he'd feel nothing. Not connection, not comfort, just an ache he couldn't explain. And he'd wonder, quietly, if maybe he didn't actually want her at all. Maybe he just didn't want to feel alone. That moment changed everything for him, because he realized he wasn't chasing women for intimacy. He was using them to fill a silence he didn't know how to sit with. He didn't want love. He wanted escape. He wasn't seeking connection. He was trying to run from something he didn't have the words for yet. And that's the part no one tells you. That lust, in the world we live in now, functions like a drug. It offers a momentary high, the illusion of power, of being wanted, of being alive. But underneath all that, it's just a loop. Dopamine, fantasy, release, numbness, repeat. And the more you chase it, the less alive you feel. Because that pleasure is not real, not the kind that nourishes. It's not rooted in intimacy, or vulnerability, or anything that lasts. It's performance, a role, a script. You follow the lines, you climax, you collapse, and you end up right back where you started. Alone, empty, hungry again. Carl Jung didn't see lust as some moral failure. He saw it as a spiritual message, a flare from the unconscious, a warning from the soul that something deep inside you is trying to get your attention. Because when you're truly whole, you don't need to chase. You don't need to cling. You don't need to prove anything with your body or with someone else's. You simply exist, and that's enough. You don't feel hollow because you're connected to yourself, to your purpose, to something real. But to get to that place, you have to stop pretending. You have to stop lying to yourself about what this craving really is. It's not random. It's not just stress or hormones. It's not just something that all men or all women deal with. It's a signal, a message, a mask you've worn for so long that you started thinking it was your face. So next time you feel that pull, don't run. Don't numb it. Don't act on it without thinking. Pause. Ask yourself what you're really craving. Not the image, not the search, not the dopamine hit, but the thing beneath it all. The real thing, the real need. And what you'll find there might surprise you. You might hear something soft, something quiet, something that sounds a lot like, I want to be held. I want to be known. I want to come back to myself. Because maybe, just maybe, you've never been lustful. You've just been hungry for something real, something honest, something that doesn't vanish the second the screen goes dark. There's a part of you you've never fully met. Not directly, not face to face, but it shows up every night you scroll. Every time you crave something you can't quite name. Every time you break a promise you swore you'd keep. Carl Jung called it the shadow. It's not evil. It's not monstrous. It's not something to be destroyed. It's just the part of you that got left behind. The part that wanted too much, felt too deeply, needed love without having to earn it. So you buried it. You pushed it down. You silenced it and called that strength. But the shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It waits. And when you're tired, or alone, or numb, it speaks. And the voice it uses sounds a lot like lust. You think it's desire, but it's not. It's that forgotten part of you whispering, notice me, feel me, let me live. And because you've forgotten how to hear that language, you misinterpret it. You think you need her, or him, or release. You think it's your body acting up. But the ache isn't in your body. It's in your soul. You've mistaken longing for integration. You've mistaken a need for wholeness as a need for stimulation. And the more you run from it, the more power it has over you. Because that's how repression works. It doesn't disappear. It just changes form. Turns into addiction. Into compulsive patterns. Into something that feels uncontrollable. Carl Jung said it clearly. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And what could be more absurd than believing that another person's body will heal a wound that lives in your spirit? Here's how it works. You feel alone. Not the kind of loneliness that comes from being single, but the kind that comes from being disconnected from your essence. So you crave. You chase. You surrender to the loop. The hit comes. That short-lived rush. That second of false transcendence. Then it dies. And you're left with it again. That guilt. That quiet shame. That sense that something's still missing. So what do? You scroll. Again. Lust. Guilt. Numbness. Repeat. That's the loop. The shadow-seduced loop. And it doesn't just feed on lust. It feeds on your forgetfulness. On your disconnection from yourself. From your own needs. From the softer, quieter parts of you that are just trying to be heard. You're not addicted to sex. You're addicted to escape. And every time you run from the ache, you train your nervous system to believe you can't handle stillness. That silence is dangerous. That solitude is a threat. But the shadow isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to reunite with you. The part of you that still weeps in silence just wants to be acknowledged. Not fixed. Not judged. Just seen. Because what we call lust is often the repressed cry of a child who needed love and didn't get it. So now, as an adult, you search for warmth. Not because you're sinful, but because you were never taught how to hold your own pain. That's what Jung meant by integration. Not perfection. Not becoming pure. But turning toward the parts of you that you left behind and saying, I'm here. I'm listening. Because when you silence your shadow, you don't become free. You become fractured. You move through life pretending, performing, pleasing, while the real you waits in the dark, hoping someone will remember. Lust isn't your flaw. It's your flashlight. It's your soul trying to guide you to the places that still hurt, the places you've ignored. So the next time that craving rises, don't push it away. Don't scroll it away. Don't run from it. Pause. Feel it. Sit with the ache. Not to feed it, but to hear it. Instead of asking, how do I make this stop? Try asking, what part of me is trying to speak right now? Because behind every craving is a conversation you've avoided. A part of you that's been waiting to be heard. And here's the thing you need to hear most. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not addicted to pleasure. You are disconnected. From your own needs. From your softness. From the voice inside you that says, please don't leave me again. And when you finally listen to that voice, really listen, you'll realize something powerful. What you've been calling lust. It was never about the body. It was about your soul. Your soul starving for your return. There was once a boy, quiet, curious, soft in ways the world didn't know how to hold. He wanted simple things. To be heard. To be held. To be loved without having to earn it. But in his world, love had rules. Smile more. Don't cry. Be strong. Be useful. Make them proud. So he became what they needed him to be. He learned to perform. Not out of rebellion, but survival. Because when softness is punished, you learn to harden. When your emotions are ignored, you learn to hide. And when your worth is measured by performance, you learn how to play a role. That boy grew into a man. At least on the outside. He looked confident, sharp, desirable. But inside, he was still staring out the same window, wondering why love always felt like something he had to earn. So he started chasing women. Not to connect, but to feel wanted, to feel seen, to feel like even for a moment he mattered. He told himself it was desire. He called it lust. He thought it was normal, masculine even. But the truth was he didn't want sex. He wanted safety. He didn't crave her body. He craved her gaze. The way it made him forget that he never got to be a child in peace. Because when a boy grows up unseen, he becomes a man obsessed with being desired. Not because he's shallow, but because being wanted feels like proof that he exists. That someone finally notices. But it never lasts. Because desire without intimacy is a flicker, not a fire. So he chases again. Longing, climax, collapse. Not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to see the boy underneath the armor and say, I see you. But most don't. They fall in love with the mask, the image, the performance, not the person. And after a while, even he forgets that someone ever existed beneath the mask. He becomes the role, the seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one. Not because he wants to be, but because somewhere along the line vulnerability stopped feeling safe. And then there's that moment. It happens to every man like this. He's lying next to someone. She's beautiful. She's kind. She's everything he thought he wanted. And still, he feels nothing. No depth. No connection. Just that same ache with no name. Because he's not really with her. He's with the fantasy. He's performing. And performance, no matter how passionate, can never replace presence. That's the real wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves. How to feel without fleeing. How to ask without begging. How to receive without proving. Carl Jung believed that every man carries this unhealed boy inside him. And until he turns to face that boy, until he looks him in the eye and says, "You don't have to perform anymore," that boy keeps showing up. In lust. In loneliness. In false love that disappears the second it's touched. So ask yourself, when was the first time you felt invisible? When did you start chasing love instead of receiving it? When did your body become your armor and your desire become your language? Because the man who endlessly chases women is often just a boy trying to rewrite the story where love was withheld. But no woman, no matter how beautiful, can rewrite that story for you. Only you can. Not by chasing, not by proving, but by returning to the part of you that's still standing at that window, still waiting to be loved without doing anything to earn it. You think it's her eyes, her voice, her softness. You think that's what draws you in, that it's her body that stirs something primal in you. But it's not her. It never was. It's you. The part of you she reminds you of. The part you buried to survive. Carl Jung called it the anima. The inner feminine that lives within every man. Not feminine as in gender, but as in essence. Tenderness, emotion, intuition, surrender, the ability to feel without shame. When a man represses these traits, when the world tells him to be strong instead of soft, to be stoic instead of sensitive, he loses contact with this inner part. But it doesn't vanish. It goes underground. And from that shadowed place it starts to project. So when you meet her, the one who moves like poetry, who speaks with warmth, who glows with feeling, your soul wakes up, not because she's your missing half, but because she mirrors the part of you that you forgot. You don't crave her. You crave the reunion with yourself. And here's where things get complicated. Because if you don't understand this, you turn her into a fantasy. You think she's the answer. You think she's the cure. You put all your unhealed needs onto her, expecting her to carry them. But she can't. No one can. That's not what love is for. And so the relationship starts to break. Not because she failed you, but because you never really saw her. You saw your projection. And when that illusion starts to crack, you feel betrayed. But it's not her betrayal. It's your soul reminding you that this was never the path to healing. It was the invitation to turn inward. Because the more you chase her, the more you abandon yourself. You're not chasing love. You're avoiding the reunion with your own soul. So the next time you're pulled toward someone, ask yourself, what part of me is she waking up? Is it my longing? My sensitivity? My desire to be touched without having to perform? Because once you see it, everything changes. You stop projecting. You stop chasing. You start reclaiming. You begin to live as the whole version of yourself again. And suddenly, you don't need her to be your source of beauty. You've remembered your own. She wasn't the destination. She was the mirror, the messenger, the one who reminded you of what you already had. What you were really chasing was never her. It was you. You've spent years trying to outrun the craving, the heat, the urgency. You've tried to fight it, ignore it, drown it in distractions. But lust was never the enemy. Repression didn't heal it. It only deepened the fracture between who you are and who you pretend to be. Jung didn't tell us to kill desire. He told us to understand it. Because when you take away the addiction, the projection, the fantasy, what's left isn't sin. The signal. A cry from the unconscious. A flare in the dark. There's something here. Something you haven't faced yet. Healing doesn't come from shutting that voice down. It comes from sitting with it, breathing with it, listening to what it's trying to show you. Not with fear, not with shame, but with presence. Because presence is what transforms everything. When you stop escaping the ache, you finally start to hear it. And what it's been trying to say, this whole time, is simple. I miss you. I need to be seen. I'm not lust. I'm longing. For you. That's the shift. From addiction to awareness. From performing to being. From chasing bodies to reclaiming your soul. When you finally understand what your craving is really about, lust becomes a teacher. Stillness becomes a sanctuary. Presence becomes your strength. And you realize it was never about her. It was always about you. You were never addicted to sex. You were addicted to the feeling of being whole. Now give that feeling back to yourself. Because when you do, everything changes. This is where your real journey begins. And you don't have to walk it alone.